Yes, I am a Solas mancer. Yes, I romance Thane. What? Of course, I love causing myself needless pain and going for a doomed love that utterly wrecks me with its intensity, angst, and consequences. Don't you? The first time we meet Thane Krios in Mass Effect 2, it's as we make our way up Dantius Towers trying to get to his mark, Nasana Dantius, before he kills her and disappears, so we can recruit him to join our squad. You see, at this point, our player character, Commander Shepard, is assembling a badass crew to take on the collectors on their homeworld and stop what would be a Reaper invasion that would all but guarantee the end of the world. The stakes were high, and as shepherd, I was eager to get the best of the best on my team. Now, I'm not sure how you played the game and in what order, but at this point, I had already recruited Gara's Vicarian, love of my life and partner in badassery. I'd recruited Morden Solas, brilliant doctor and scientist, quick to save you and quicker to kill your ass if you move stupid. I'd recruited Grunt, adopted son, tank and killing machine. Jack, my traumatized psychotic girlfriend who just wants to wreck shit. Samara, the warrior monk older woman of my dreams. Miranda, my ice queen, soft heart protective older sister with the greater ass. Kasumi, my kleptomaniac peeping Tom bestie who gives all the dirt and gossip on everything going on in my ship. Zaid, my ferocious tank after my own heart who bears grudges and who would go to the ends of the world to get his vengeance and burn shit down. And Jacob, loyal, always wants to do the right thing, was the first person I saw when I woke up and who answered all my questions. Jacob. I know some people don't like him, but I like Jacob as a character and a squad mate. I guess it's easier because my shepherd never romanced him in any of my many, way too many playthroughs. But you get my point. By the time we get to meet Thane, I'd picked up quite the crew. And so I was curious what role it would fit within our group and how well I would gel with him. And so when we made our way to Nasana's inner sanctum, after having wrecked her entire security, which I know, my team and I are badass like that. Also, wasn't about to forget how she played me in Mass Effect 1. But anyway, when we finally make it to her and she's still foolishly trying to negotiate her way into getting Shepard not to kill her, Thane makes his entrance dancing on silent feet, gliding from one guard to another, killing them before they made a sound, and then he shoots Nasana, point blank, quicker than thought. And as her body starts to fall, he catches her, carefully lays her down as he asks the gods for forgiveness and praise. And in that moment, I fell, headlong, into the only doomed romance we get in the Mass Effect franchise. Compare that with my romance of Solas. The first time we meet him is the mage and apostate who gives a female Solavellan because if you want to romance Solas, you have to be a female elf. Anything else is not his cup of tea. So, as I was saying, we meet him as this mage and apostate who gives Solavellan a cause and answers that are sorely needed. Answers with regards the mark of the anchor burned into her palm and how she can use it to help close the rifts in the world and save the people of Thedas. Answers with regards the Fade, the Veil and our gods. Answers on how she's to balance and juggle being a savior of Thedas whilst being of a race of people who exist on the fringes of Thedas' society and often have to face the discrimination that identity brings them. Like I stated in Friday's video about why I like and enjoy Solas as a character, answers are at the core of your relationship with him. It rewards a curious inquisitor who questions him insistently about the Fade with everything he knows and has learned in his travels in the realm. And I know there are people who are convinced that Solas lies a lot, but he's not a very good liar. He's more for deflections and long pauses that are so obvious you can see his brain working extra hard to not say the knee-jerk first response that he wants to give, because that is often the truth. He has his tells, and they are quite obvious. But like I said, when you're talking about the fade, the veil, your gods, it does give you answers. And the answers give me as the player a solid footing to learn and understand the fade better. And when we start the game, when you return to Haven after you've closed the rift at the Temple of Sacred Ashes and you have your conversations with the different companions at your return, you explore just how brave it is for Solas, who at that point of the story is recovering and has zero power, to willingly surrender himself to Chantry forces as an elven apostate, knowing fully well how badly that could have gone and the abuse overly religious Chantry forces might have forced him through. When in that conversation, he sounds accepting of any mistreatment he would have possibly received by virtue of that, you as Solavellan can justifiably point out that you wouldn't let that happen and are quite willing to see him protected with the little power you have as the proclaimed herald of Andraste. Solas, upon hearing that, looks surprised, and then his face softens in gratitude. And it was at that point, that softening, that I fell headlong into the doomed romance that is my love for this seeming mage who is shocked at basic human or elven kindness and decency. Now, I've only romanced Thane a couple of times, not as much as Garrus or Liara, who are my core picks for most of my playthroughs. But Thane's romance is the one that haunts me the most of all the romances in Mass Effect. It is his romance that has me pausing in my steps when the sun hits a certain way, and I recall him telling Shepard about his memories with such clarity and vivid imagery that it takes my breath away. It is a romance that I find just as devastating as my Solavellan romance, which, unlike my Thane romance that I said I've only done a couple of times, I romance Solas almost every chance I get. The only time I'm able to romance someone else is when I actively decide in the character creator to play as anyone else but a female elf. That's when the other romances get a chance. If it's a female elf though, I always gravitate towards Solas. And for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out why I am so obsessed with these two romances. What do they have in common other than confirming that I am a sucker for pain? Now, if you're someone who has played both Mass Effect and Dragon Age, you're most likely appalled at me trying to imply in any way that Solas and Thane have any similarities in common other than their doomed romances, of course. One love interest is someone that has the fandom so divided, with some people hating his guts and gleefully looking forward to getting payback in Dragon Age the Veilguard, and some who love him with absolute devotion, me, and are eager to see how his story would be resolved in Dragon Age the Veilguard. And then there are those who are indifferent to him and don't care. And honestly, I do believe that if that is you, if you fall within that category, then you are in a class of your own, because damn, the strength of will to choose indifference in the face of Solas is admirable. But as I was saying, Solas is a pretty divisive character in the Dragon Age fandom. Thane, on the other hand, is not. Majority of the fans like him. Some of the fans love him. Me. He's one of the cool ones. The deadly assassin with biotic abilities that if you're playing on Nightmare, comes in a clutch on that damn collector ship. But I saw a tweet from Aurora's Art on Twitter where they talk about a ship dynamic they've realized they really like being one where one partner knows they are doomed by the narrative and the other partner is blissfully unaware. And I was like, that makes sense. I do enjoy that. But I raise you one even more devastating. A ship dynamic where you as the player is aware that the ship is doomed. You are aware of the pain and devastation it will cause. You're aware of how much it would break and wreck you personally. And yet, like a moth to a flame, you keep getting drawn into the inevitability of that heartbreak. Look at Shepard and Thane. When you play as Shepard, you're fully aware that Thane has Keppel syndrome, a respiratory disease that means that as at when we meet him in Mass Effect 2, he's already dying. He's just waiting for when death would claim him, and he doesn't hide that from Shepard. The first time you ask him, he tells you right off the bat, so she knows. But his death has always been a core central part of the conflict, and yet you, as the player, have to willingly choose that. You have to be willing to take on the sorrow of knowing that there is no happy ending, that all you get is stolen time that would soon run out. And yet you grasp it, trying to keep the sands of time from slipping totally through your fingers, hoping against hope that you get one more day, one more ride, one more adventure, one more time. You do so knowing fully well that when the time comes, you would have no choice but to let go. You feel a bit selfish, a bit foolish, a bit of a masochist, and yet you cannot look away. You cannot choose any other path. There is a purity to be found in you willingly choosing to break your own heart as a player with the Shepard Thane romance. It's yet another reason why I relate to Solas so much. Because Solas is sort of the Mass Effect Shepard Thane romancer, knowing that the end would utterly shatter and wreck him and break him, and he will not be able to recover or catch his breath, and yet is drawn to you as Solavellan, like a moth to a flame. He can't keep away. Instead, he is Shepard, holding on to the moment as desperately as he can, terrified that he is running out of time, unwilling to let go, hoping for one more day, one more adventure, one more time. Staring at the ticking clock, knowing that the end draws closer, the closer you get to finally defeating Corypheus. Both romances focus on the central theme of trying to get love and experiencing it with a deadline in sight. And if it's better to never have attempted to love at all when you know that it's going to come to an end. Or if doing so and being gloriously happy for no matter how brief the time is worth the pain that you have to endure when it's over. Is it better to love when you know that you're never really going to get closure? Because dying or having to leave in order to fulfill a self-imposed duty based off of past mistakes, does not closure give when one is in love? When you have a partner you do not want to leave behind? And I think it speaks a lot to the beauty of BioWare's writing of their romances, because these are questions that our characters would ask. Do you think Solavellan, on the night she lays awake, left arm folded into herself, a magical right arm stretched out over an empty pillow, does she regret that choice? Does she wish that she had never chosen to love this man, this god that left? Does she think back on the times he told her that it would have been kinder in the long run if he had stayed away, but he couldn't bear to? Does she acknowledge that it was just as hard for him to walk away from her? Does Shepard ask herself on the Normandy, and to forestall anyone who might want to say anything, I'm thinking of Shepard before Priority Earth? So does Shepard ask herself on nights on the Normandy if she should have stayed away? If she should have considered more carefully what it meant that they couldn't have much time together before she entered the romance with him? Does she think back on her conversations with Liara after they defeated the Shadow Broker, and Liara came back to Shepard's captain quarters, where they discussed a love for Thane and Shepard needing to enjoy as much of the time she has left with him. I think of that a lot. I think of what the Solavellan romance and Shepard's romance with Thane have taught me about nothing in life being guaranteed. People would love you and they would leave. And rather than sit in that miserable thought of, I would rather not love than be hurt, sometimes you take on the pain to enjoy the sweet for as brief a time as it can be. Because ultimately, that is what it means to be alive, to be human, isn't it? We are made of a patchwork of scars from the hurts we've experienced, holding the radiance of warmth that is the love we've received. And isn't that a beautiful thing? I'm sorry this video is most likely all over the place. I have no structured thoughts. I just have been thinking about the bittersweet romance staple of BioWare games and how it cuts across their different franchises, and I got the idea to make this video. Maybe it's because I'm doing my last playthrough of Dragon Age Inquisition before Vilgar drops, and my canon Inquisitor loves and romances Solas. And as we are making our way through this game, every single time Solas' heart breaks in the game at him loving Solavellan and not being able to stay away, but knowing that it would eventually have to walk away and break her heart, my heart breaks because I know the pain that is coming my way. And yet I still choose it. I still make the decision to have this romance again and again. And I think it's because it really is the most human of the BioWare romances we've been given. Yes, even the romance with Dorian, which I love by the way. I either play as a female Solavellan and romance Solas, or a male Solavellan and romance Dorian. They both own my heart. But I do think that there is a universality to the romance between Solas and Solavellan that we just don't get with the others. But as I was saying, maybe it's because of my present playthrough. Maybe it's because I see similarities in Solas and Thane, how they both call my player character Thane and Siha respectively. How they are both characters who are driven by the mistakes of their past and a desperate desire to fix things for those they have failed. And how in Thane's case, you as Shepard get to help him with that and help mend that relationship with his son Colliet. But with Solas, Solavellan doesn't really get that chance, because he's so tortured about fixing his mistakes on his own that he's unwilling to bring your player character in to help him. Maybe it's because they both remember events that have long passed with a crystal clear quality because of their eidetic memory. But these two romances own my heart. So if you're a Mass Effect fan who loved and enjoyed the tragedy of Thane's romance with Shepard, and have never given the Solavellan romance a chance, you totally should. It's more than worth it. And if you're a Dragon Age fan and have never tried the Thane Shepard romance before, you totally should fix that. If anything, because of the utter heartbreak that is the letter you get when you're back on the ship after Thane has died. Spoiler alert, but like you already knew that was coming. Because nothing got me in that playthrough quite like, I love you. If all else whispers back into the tide, know this for fact. By grace given me by the goddess Arashu, I bid her divine protection to you, my warrior angel, my Siha, to succeed in your destiny, to light your path through the coming darkness, to give you hope when all seems lost. I will await you across the sea. Tell me that isn't heartbreakingly beautiful. But yes, that's the end of this video. I do apologize for it being all over the place. Like I said, it isn't one of my structured videos per se. Just me talking and yapping about my two favorite romances across BioWare franchises. Let me know what companion you chose to romance in either of the games if you've played them. If you chose to not romance anybody, however, let me know as well. I really am curious, and I think it definitely marks you as humanity's strongest soldier, because I don't know how you did it. Like this video if you enjoyed the all over the place mess that was my thoughts, or hit the dislike button if you didn't. Hey, maybe you didn't want to watch a video about a girl yapping on her romance choices in these two games for 20 something minutes. Or you wanted me to go into better detail and analysis of the romances, and I didn't, which, sorry. Share this video if you think others should see or hear what I have to say. It all helps my channel grow and is incredibly supportive of my content. Speaking of support, a huge thank you to my patrons who help me immensely and keep me going. Thank you. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, the link to do so is in the description box. I make new videos 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. All my videos drop at 5 p.m. EST on upload days. Whilst you wait for a new video from me, do check out my In Solas' Defense video if you haven't seen it yet. Until next time, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.